Good morning, everyone. Steve here from theturtlefollower.com with your stock market outlook video for Saturday, August 15th, 2015. Hope everyone had a great week. It was definitely not for the faint of heart. We had a couple huge moves early in the week, then followed by a massive move on Wednesday, ultimately to close the week out pretty much, as crazy as it sounds, almost unchanged. We were up slightly on the week. If you look here at the ES, which is the S&P futures, you'll see we entered the week at let's see, we opened at 2072 and we closed the week at 2089. So kind of crazy where we ended up, but ultimately, you know, it was a positive week nonetheless from last week. So at this point, where are we in this whole cycle? I continue to think that the longer we spend time underneath the 50-day moving average, the more likely the chances are that we ultimately break down from this range. You could see here, let's clean this up a lot. Let's remove all these drawings. Start fresh. All right, so you can see ultimately we're in this big giant range, okay, which we have identified up there on the weekly chart. So there's the range there, but we're also now in a much tighter range, almost right in the middle of the larger range. Okay, so this goes from 2061, or let's say 2060, up to about 2105. All right, so right now that's our area, but my concern is that we are actually spending time under the 50-day moving average and under this trend line, which I think is very important. This trend line almost has a bit of a channel associated with it. So if we redraw this as a channel, you could see maybe something like that, and maybe that's stretching a little bit, but ultimately I think 2105, 2061 are the key areas for the coming week. All right, if we can break above or below one of those, then we may start to push the opposite side in the direction that would ultimately lead to a breakout or a breakdown. So essentially, if we break out over 2105, then the next level that we would see, and the level that's held for quite some time, is 2125. All right, so if we can break over 2105, 2125 probably at least gets tested. Whether or not it breaks out or not, who knows? Same on the downside. All right, if we break down below 2061, next level it gets tested is probably somewhere in here between 2032 and 2021. All right, those are the key areas that I'm looking at. And again, not saying it breaks down from there, just saying it probably gets tested if we break down from 2061. So for right now, I would say it's a toss-up. You know, I know I said that last week as well, but I think at this point, if you kind of clean up the chart and just look at it for what it is, we're below the 50-day moving average, we're below a short-term downtrend, and we're in a consolidation. So until one of those sides breaks and until one, you know, gives way a little bit, I gotta say that we're probably going sideways, you know, for this upcoming week, and probably spending time between 2105 and 2061. So now, as far as the Nasdaq goes, the NQs, all right, a little bit more of a bullish picture here, you could say, because we have pulled back. We obviously had that big pullback on Wednesday. We came down, tested 40.43, ultimately closed every day this week above the 50-day moving average. Okay, so when you're looking at this here, I could say that this could be a potential springboard for a move back over or back to this 4,600. All right, and again, let's clean this up a little bit. I don't want to go crazy cleaning it because this one's actually fairly accurate. But here you could see, let's make, you know, what we'll do, we'll make these a different color. Let's make these, let's call them gold. All right, so that's what I'm looking at for this week, is this gold range right here. All right, from 4,500 to 4,600. I think this 4,500 probably holds. You probably get a break of this downtrend line early in the week and then a test of 4,600. So the way this looks to me, a little bit more bullish than the S&P. All right, and you can see we're not spending time at the 200-day. We're really just making our way back to the 200-day for a potential bounce. All right, haven't really even tested the 200-day. If you zoom in on this, The 200-day hasn't even been tested in the Nasdaq, while the S&P has been testing it almost every week. So here we are, 4,600, 4504, and that's the area I think we need to see break. And again, if we break out over 4,600, probably head back to this 4675 area. All right, and if we break 4,500, then you have a couple support areas, 4440 and then 4361. But for right now, concentrate on this yellow range right in here between, again, 4,600 and 4,500, and see which way that takes us. But the downtrend line here probably gets broken because we're sitting on some key support right now, right at the 50-day moving average, and probably gives us a nice little bounce early in the week to potentially break that level. Now the YM, all right, just brutal. All right, absolutely brutal. We'll clean this up. Remove all the drawings. All right, so what do we have here in the Dow futures? Well, here you have that same downtrend line, okay? But look at where we are now. All right, we're basically sitting right on the top, on the bottom of that downtrend line, and look at all the space that you have here to potentially move higher. Okay, so I'm not saying we're going to start moving higher and break out and this and that, but just think about it from a short-term weekly perspective. We're down here. All right, it's probably pretty hard to continue on this very short-term accelerated trend to the downside. All right, so my thinking is we start to break this smaller trend line and we come back and test the bottom side of this 50-day moving average. So that's 2 for the bulls right now. The Nasdaq looks good, and the Dow, not that it looks good, but it probably leads to a little bit more of a bounce this week than we're used to, and that would bring us probably right back to the bottom side of the 200-day moving average, which really hasn't been tested yet on the weekly chart. So normally when you get a breakdown, you'll have a breakdown and then a retest of the breakdown area, and then a move lower. So for right now, for the Dow, you know, similar to what we had here, we may have this kind of move here where we get a big move and then a test of this downtrend line, okay? And that would be the area you'd want to look to start potentially putting on some more short trades. But I think right now this just to me leads me to believe that we probably head higher this week in the Dow. And the Russell, all right, again, we'll clean this up because these are getting all crazy on us. All right, so let's look at the Russell from a key perspective. Well, let's look here first on the weekly, and you'll see we're breaking down from this range. Okay, so not surprising to see the Russell heading down. Again, look at this downtrend. Okay, here's your downtrend channel. Something like that. And again, similar to the Dow, look at all the space that you have to potentially fill in and still be in a downtrend. So again, this leads me to believe that we'll probably head a little bit higher in the Russell this week. All right, again, you have that very accelerated trend line to the downside right through here. All right, so ultimately that probably gets broken. This 1200 area, I'm assuming, holds, and then we probably come back, test 1242 or something along those lines. So again, you could look for a potential play to the upside here. So with 3 of the indices, you know, pointing maybe to a little bit of a bounce, you take a look now at the back at the S&P, and maybe you have that little bit of a bias there, and you can see the S&P, you know, where the other ones were very far down on the lower channel line, the S&P is sitting right there. So maybe if we get a bounce in the other markets, that brings us to 2105, and maybe even a potential breakout over 2105 and a test of 2122. So different ways to look at it. Again, this is all just, you know, assumption at this point. We have to see what the market actually does, but I'm leaning to the bullish side this coming week, only because we have some room to the upside in 3 of the major indices, and then we can potentially have a breakout in the S&P and at least maybe test 2122, and then see maybe if we can you know, turn this around a little bit and get the bulls to finally break out of this range, and then maybe start using this area as some support. But that's a long way away. For right now, we're concentrating on next week, and I would say bias next week is bullish. So that's it for this week. You guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and we'll catch you next week for another Stock Market Outlook video. And if this is the first time you're you've seen these videos, subscribe to the nightly recap on the website, and you'll get all these future videos sent directly to your inbox, and you never have to worry about missing another one. Have a great weekend, guys, and we'll see you later. day.